where we discuss the financial and capital market as it relates to the economy in Nigeria. And today we're looking at the activities of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, the leading institute that helps to build capacities for with us to discuss around the focus on activities of CIS and how it can further take Nigeria's capital market to greater heights. Of course, you agree with me that Nigeria's capital market ecosystem has to move forward and make more impact, particularly as we navigate this period of the pandemic. So welcome and nice to have you, Mr. Olatunde Amolegbe, on the show.
Thank you, Otto. Glad to be here.
Yes. When you, on your investiture as the 11th president of CIS, you talked about transforming CIS and taking it to greater heights. Can you give us a brief insight into your transformation agenda for the Institute?
Thank you again for this opportunity. Transformation for the CIS is more like continuation for my own term as president, because as you know, the transformation agenda for the institute actually commenced during the terms of my predecessors. Yeah. And during that time, as you know, I was second vice president and then consequently first vice president. Yeah. So I contributed significantly to crafting the transformational agenda of those two terms. So what I see as my role at present is to actually ensure that we actualize those items that we had set out to do in the transformational agenda to bring all those benefits to our members and the Nigerian public at large. So for me, it is more of a continuation and a total batting, if you will, of the transformational agenda that started at the onset of the presidency of my two predecessors. So for me, it's more of continuation than anything else. One of the things that I see us doing very quickly is to first of all increase the awareness of the public as to the role of stockbrokers. You know, we need to let the public understand that the role of stockbrokers go well beyond equity traders on the floor. These are multidimensional professionals. These are well-trained professionals that can fit in any aspect or any sphere of professional lives, either in the public sector or the private sector, as long as it has to do with investments and as long as it has to do with financial matters. They are capable of fitting into it and excelling in those roles. All right. So that's one of the things we're going to be setting out to do. As you probably also know, we have the CC bill, the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investment Bill, which has been with the National Assembly for a while. That is a very crucial bill for the industry. I would believe it's a crucial bill for the public at large. And our intention is to see that bill eventually passed and signed into law because of its immense benefit for our members. So those are just some of the things that we will be seeking to do. Of course, you know, we'll be revamping our capacity for training our members, certification, and increasing our role regarding advocacy and contribution to government financial policy. You know, clearly there is a dearth of funding for infrastructure in the country. We believe that the capital market has a significant role in bridging that funding gap. We intend to, let the government buy into that agenda and, increase the use of capital market instruments and services in bridging that infrastructural gap that is ailing the country at the moment. So just a few of some of the things that we are hoping to achieve this time.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that you're looking at increasing awareness on the role of stockbrokers.
Yes. You're also looking at driving advocacy on the activities in the capital market, and particularly the CISI bill. I mean, that is one bill that it would be so nice if it's passed and signed into law under your tenure. I know that would be one big achievement that you would always put in your laurel. But very importantly, it shows that this agenda is set and your work is cut out for you. We wish you all the best in that regard. It's much work for you too. But this pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, brought huge disruptions to global economic activities and also affected the market. Let's first look at how you have to navigate it with your colleagues in terms of embracing technology to carry out activities in the market. How's the experience been? And going forward, how will CIS, with its members, begin to embrace technology to drive market operations?
Technology had always been at the forefront of everything we do. As you probably know, we were one of the very first institutes to start the computer-based testing for our examinations in the country. One of the very, if not the very first. And so that's, it shows the forward thinking of CIS when it comes to the use of technology. So I mean, this pandemic has only increased our appetite to be more innovative and use technology to do more for our members, and also encourage our members to do more with technology to serve the public. And we're already seeing that the whole capital market was one of the markets that kept on operating even throughout the lockdown, which shows that, I mean, we're also operating an industry that has embraced technology, significantly, even prior to the pandemic. All right. So I mean, kudos to our platforms and the regulators regarding that. So I mean, the use of technology comes second to nature to us at CIS. As we speak, we are hoping to conduct the first remote examinations for new members come either September or October this year. It is going to be the first remote exams to be conducted such that the students can sit anywhere they are in the world and take our exams. All right. So, I mean, we will continue to use technology. We'll continue to leverage on it. As I mentioned during my investiture, we also recently signed enterprise resources program contract with a provider to revolutionize everything we do from the very beginning to the very end. Such that members all over the world, be they graduates, be they associates, be they fellows, can access resources, training resources, examination resources, irrespective of whatever service they expect from us at CIS. They can access it through the portal that will emanate from the contract website. So I mean, the use of technology will, is such that will
it's helping to improve efficiency. I mean, it's nice to hear that you're going to take this very major step
in having a digital-led exams for the CIS. You know how it's done over the years, and now, so even if I'm in Sokoto or whether I'm in Burning Kebbi, I can write the exam. I mean, that's nice to hear how forward-thinking the CIS is, and definitely it's a plus in terms of how you're embracing technology and looking at what people are discussing around the new normal of how things will be done going forward. And also the enterprise resource portal, the contract you said, this is very laudable, and if fully implemented, should help the CIS members to assess resources and material, because this is very important at this time. Those infrastructure that can enable people to assess their resources and continue to improve learning and capacity. We will still get back to that in our discussion, but let's look at this period in the market. We know that there have been so much activities looking at driving primary market activities. It's been part of the activities of key players in the market. And so far, there is need for it to be promoted. We need to see much of it to deepen activities in the market. And under your leadership, what are the plans of the CIS to continue deepening this advocacy? I know you mentioned the advocacy, but if you could drill down to avenues or strategies you have to really, really ensure that we can drive primary market activities in the market?
The primary market is an essential part of the capital market because it serves as a funnel, to bring securities and liquidity into the secondary market. And CIS is at the forefront of advocacy, talking to regulators, talking to other market participants, to see what we can do to ensure that activity in that sector of the market actually picks up, because it's an effort that will take the collaboration of all market participants clearly. And so we're at the front of those engagements along with our partners in the Association of Securities and Securities Dealers Association of Nigeria. So we'll continue to talk to people. We'll also continue to talk to regulators, because the regulations they put in place do have significant impact on whether companies do decide to come and access capital through the primary market, or they seek other sources. So we've had discussions around, for instance, seeking to reduce the time it takes companies to come to the market. So for instance, if it used to typically take, say, 3 or 4 months for an equity insurance to come to the market, we are saying that is it possible for us to cut some of the red tapes to reduce that time frame, all right, so that accessing capital in the capital market, through the primary market, becomes as competitive as what it would take to access capital through other sources in the financial market. So cut the time to market, cut possibly the cost it takes to raise capital in the primary market. All right. So those are two of the pillars which we feel that with collaboration amongst the regulators and the operators, if we achieve that, it will encourage more companies to want to seek to issue securities in the primary market. We also realize that beyond those direct issues, there are some indirect issues that also affect issuers in the primary market. And one of those indirect issues is the performance of the secondary market. All right, because it is via the secondary market that you achieve price discovery, and it's those price discovery that will encourage companies to want to say, yes, we know we will get good valuation for our instruments in the primary markets.
Yeah.
All right. So then we will be willing to come to the primary market, but you will not achieve fair valuation in the secondary market unless you are able to find liquidity find its way into that secondary market. And how can you find liquidity, getting into the secondary market? It will take engagement with those sources of liquidity. We are talking of the CBN. We are talking of the PFAs, increasing their participation in the secondary market, because they have the liquidity that they can channel towards the secondary market in order to improve price discovery in that market, and it will have a knock-on effect on the primary market. Now, the role of the CBN, for instance, will include, for instance, allowing margin facility to start on, in the market again, and expanding the marginable securities we have in the market. It is true that, margin facility had some negative impact on the market in the past. But the truth of the matter is that the market has since evolved and has since changed. Regulations have increased significantly. Capacity to monitor the activities of operators and monitor the activity of the market has improved significantly, such that if we were to allow margin facility now, it is not likely that some of the negative aspects we saw in the past will repeat itself, because we have better tools to monitor and regulate the activities of participants.
Yeah, so that's really nice to note, particularly the time to market
and the cost of raising capital. Those are two areas we will be monitoring to see how the CIS is making progress. And I'm really happy that you said you're going to constantly engage those that can provide that liquidity to the secondary market. I mean, those are areas that you've committed to, and we will be monitoring to see the impact progressive activities in that regard, and that would really go a long way in driving the primary market activities. It's nice to take note of that, and we hope that that will be practicalized under your leadership, which is set to get things going. But there is something that, of course, is of concern to you. It seems you're not comfortable with the possible increase of minimum share capital for market operators. Why is that, Mr. Amolegbe?
Okay. Well, the issue of increase in capital is one of interest to all market participants, obviously. And what we have said at CIS is that really determining capital levels in the market, is strictly the purview of the apex regulator and also the various platforms. And our position is that, it's their responsibility to determine the appropriateness of capital. We, along with our partners, can only advise, given that we represent operators, such that it is done in a way that in ensuring that we have to discuss the issue of timing, capital adjustments as a case, or what you want to, whatever we want to call it. Clearly, with the pandemic already affecting operators in the market, and also even affecting volumes we are seeing in the market, this might not necessarily be the time to be considering an increase in capital. Medium to long term, though, the regulators and the platforms, will look at the issue, and I'm sure, in conjunction with us and other associations within the marketplace, an appropriate decision will be taken regarding that. But our role as representative of operators is to actually just advise the regulators as to what we think would be appropriate. And I can tell you that the CIS, along with Ashon, has already been having meetings regarding this issue, and our intention is to send an official position to the regulators regarding what we feel is appropriate. So we do not take those decisions. All we can say is that time is important. So, and this might not necessarily be in the immediate, it might not be the time to consider doing that.
Okay, so considering the pandemic and the effects,
and of course other prevailing issues, your position is that this is not the right timing for that. We're looking at the medium to long term in terms of such decisions, if I hear that well.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Now, markets are driven by increased activities, which helps to boost the capitalization. When you take a look at Saudi Arabia, their exchange is called the Tadawul. Today, its capitalization is $2.1 trillion, and part of that is because state oil company Saudi Aramco also liberalized to the market. And we have been making this case, and I know that the CIS has also been on advocacy for state-owned enterprises in Nigeria, viable ones. For example, the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation and the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas should begin to look at leveraging the Nigerian capital markets to boost market activity and also to drive transparency and governance. How will CIS look at deepening that level of engagement? Because it's become very, very important at this time. The stock exchange, Nigeria Stock Exchange, capitalization dream is being $1 trillion market, but it's still working towards that. And from the analogy I gave you about the Saudi Arabia Tadawul, how can you work more collaborating with other trade groups to make that case for government to leverage the market by liberalizing state-owned enterprises to the capital market?
Thank you for that question also. The truth of the matter is that, there has been so many empirical studies that confirms the fact that government does not do business well. All right. The role of government in business should be curtailed because business is better handled by the private sector. And we've seen it. We've seen it even in physical examples, even in our country. We've had some very successful privatization, even in Nigeria. Some of these companies have ended up being listed and they are doing pretty well. We're talking of NACO, we're talking of SACO, and a few other, privatized enterprises. Don't forget that, the NASCON today that we have that is doing, relatively well in the market used to also be a privatized entity. So, I mean, the empirical fact is that, business is better in the hands of the private sector.
Yeah.
What we are doing at CIS is to try and encourage the government, to increasingly, answer some of the private sector companies, to the private sector for better management, for more transparency, and ultimately it will even be better. It will be better for government in terms of the revenue they get in the form of taxes by the time this company starts doing well. So we're engaging with those stakeholders regarding that. It is our hope that with the current stance of privatization, we will ultimately see a situation where some of the relatively bigger companies, such as the state-owned oil companies, some of the subsidiaries of state-owned oil companies will start, making their way to the market, and then some of these discos will ultimately find their way into the market. But beyond just privatization, the process of privatization is also very important.
Yeah.
The process has to be such that engenders confidence in the public. The public that generally owns companies have to believe that the process is such that it is transparent. It is such that even gives individual investors, in the private investors, an opportunity to participate in the process and ultimately reap the benefits that comes from there, which is the reason why we're encouraging the government to execute this privatization more and more through the capital market,
which is very important.
Public issuances, offer for sales, offer for subscription, so that it gives a larger portion of the public an opportunity to participate, and it is likely to make the public feel that the process is transparent. All right. Yeah. So those are the two angles we are looking at it: encouraging government to do more, and at the same time encouraging them to do it via the capital market that is likely to impose better governance onto the process and increase the transparency of the process.
Wish you all the best as you continue
to engage the government, and we hope to see one or two or three happen in the course of your tenure. Now let's look at the recently signed Company and Allied Matters Act 2020 by President Muhammadu Buhari. What are the benefits of this revised CAMA for the first time in 3 decades? What are the benefits that the capital market can derive from this?
The revised CAMA is one that we support at the Institute because it's at least it starts moving the country towards the path of modernization in encouraging the ease of doing business. All right, it has some provisions that encourages, that makes it easier to incorporate companies, that makes it easier to file returns. All right, some of these things that could be quite onerous in the past has been eased now. It increases, the acceptability of the use of technology, to register companies, to file returns, it also makes it easier, for companies that are either to partnerships with unlimited liability to now, get incorporated with limited liability. So we see more private companies coming out to get registered and get recognized by government, and hopefully it increases the tax catchment for government itself. So it is one that we recognize, and I mean one of the provisions in it which we had always we have always, as capital market operators, encouraged is the recognition of electronic share ownership. That has been an issue in the past. At least the new reverse gamma recognizes that, and it enables easy transaction regarding transfer of shares. Now that electronic share ownership is recognized, so it's a good first step. But we will expect that more reforms will come to that in the near future. But clearly, it's a good first step that the institute supports.
Yes. Mr. Olatunde
Amolegbe, of course, we're seeing that a lot is going to happen, and your work, like I said earlier, is cut out for you. And one aspect for the market in terms of driving interest, restoring particularly retail investor confidence post 2008-2009 market crisis is reaching out even to the millennials. And I guess the CIS is also looking in that aspect. What are your thoughts around the millennials? Because they also constitute a huge population in Nigeria and a good catch to drive their appetite into the markets.
Yeah. The CIS members recognizes that the millennials represent the future of the market, just as they represent the future of the country. All right. So reaching out to them, designing products that can attract them and encourage them to start to save in a safe way is one of the pillars of what our members are doing. You will see that with the adoption of fintech, a lot of our members now have products that are out there in the social media and on the internet, where most of these millennials reside anyway. That encourages them to start saving with at least as 5,000 naira. I mean, not a lot of money, because we realize that a lot of them might not really have a lot of money saved now. So they have investment products and services that encourages them to start saving the little that they have. There are lots and lots of mutual funds in the market now that allows millennials to participate and start saving and making investments, with as little as they have, and they build with time. And as they reap the benefit, they will see the advantage and will believe that participation will increase. So, I mean, if you go onto social media, you go onto the internet, you will see a lot of Nigerian firms and advisors, out there interrelating with millennials, giving them advices, training them, and giving them knowledge about the capital markets. And our hope is that more and more of them start participating in the investment side.
The market.
Also, importantly, more and more of them get encouraged to want to actually take up stockbroking and investment management as a career, for them to want to come into. So, I mean, we're doing as much as we can regarding that aspect of things.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olatunde Amolegbe. So nice to hear the very, very interesting strategies and plans you have. Particular of interest to me is the advocacy to get the governments to leverage the capital markets to
privatize, do public issuance, state-owned enterprises, increase the awareness on the role of stockbrokers, which is very critical at the time where we're having schemes like Ponzi schemes that even rip off Nigerians of their benefits and savings in investments. And also, most interesting, the fact that you're going to have your first digital-led exams where people can plug in across the country, showing that you're forward-thinking, looking at driving technology in your operations, and even most importantly, trying to drive primary market activities in addressing issues like time to market and even cost capital, and engaging those that can provide liquidity to the secondary market. So interesting times ahead, and most importantly, the CISI bill. That's one bill that will also join from the media aspect to monitor and drive advocacy for the importance of that bill being passed and signed into law. This is a lot for your tenure, your work cut out for you, and we wish you all the best in your tenure and hope that the CIS will position itself to drive the activities of stockbrokers and contribute to capital market development that will lead to economic growth for our nation. Wish you all the best, and really thank you, Mr. Olatunde Amolegbe, for the time discussing CIS and capital market development in Nigeria.
Yeah, you're welcome also. Thank you.
Yes. And that'll be all for the market review for today. It was interesting listening to conversations around the CIS and how it tends to drive capital market development in Nigeria. Join us 10 a.m. tomorrow, same time, as we continue discussions on the financial and capital market as it relates to the economy of the nation. To come your way again, thank you for watching. Have a nice day and stay safe.